Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be reviewing the anime Shiboyugi, playing death games to put food on the table. This anime was made by Studio Dean, and if you know Studio Dean, you know they're the most hit or miss anime studio of all time. They've made some of the most highly acclaimed and influential anime in the past, having titles such as Rurouni Kenshin, Konosuba, Higurashi, and Angel's Egg. But while having some masterpieces under their belt, simultaneously they have made complete disaster pieces such as Pupa, Aoni the movie, and even the Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works movie. So when going into this anime, I was certainly curious as to which category it would fall under. The overall concept of this anime is somewhat interesting by itself. To put it short, it's basically a cross between Squid Games and Saw, but with anime women. It's just girls playing games with their life on the line, and they're often working together. Sometimes there's a decision that needs to be made where not everyone can survive and or sacrifices need to be made. And I think this is encapsulated really well in the first episode. The main character has more experience than everyone in this game, and she basically directly says that she has control over who lives and who dies. And I thought it was really messed up because she is basically playing God, choosing who gets to live. And her actions do pretty much cause the death of multiple characters in this episode. I thought the first episode was pretty interesting at parts, and after finishing I thought the anime had some potential, although I wasn't too into it yet. I thought the side characters could have still been better and the games could have had way more depth, but I still felt like it was a solid intro overall. The second game is pretty much just more of the same with slightly more interesting characters, and after this game I was hoping that the anime would start improving on some of the problems I had with it originally, but instead of getting that, it does a complete 180 and quickly becomes almost unwatchably bad. After episode 5, it felt like the team was trying to outdo themselves every episode to see how much worse they could make every episode than the previous episode. And I think the main reason this is because they stop focusing on the actual games and they start focusing on things that just don't matter and I don't really care about. So basically, they stop following the premise of the plot completely. I mean, seriously, the reason we're watching this anime is for games and characters who we're supposed to want to root for to survive the games. But it gets to the point where 90% of the games happen off screen later on and the characters just get so bad it makes you hate watching the anime. And these overall are basically my two main problems with this anime, is the fact that the games are so underwhelming and the characters are just so bad as well. And since these are basically the two main focuses of this anime, it's obviously going to suffer a lot whenever they're so bad. Like seriously, instead of this anime just making serviceable, relatable characters that we want to see make it out of these games alive and who tragically fell victim to a society where they felt forced to do something like this to make money to begin with, this anime does its very best to make you hate the entire cast as much as possible by making every character extremely annoying. They either just sit there and do nothing, or they're trying to kill each other even whenever they don't need to survive, even whenever it's someone on their own team that they're supposed to be working with. And also another thing is a lot of the characters talk in metaphors, which just gets so annoying as well because people do not talk like this in real life at all. And of course, like, not everything has to be super accurate to the real world, but the way it's done in this anime is just so stupid and annoying and just not cool. Even though it's trying so hard to be cool, but at the end of the day, it just comes out pretentious to me. So yeah, overall, I really wish it stayed how it was before episode 5, where the characters were at least serviceable enough to be able to watch this anime and not hate it. They mostly just had generic reasons to be there, like being in debt and needing money. Although there was one character who I thought really stuck out to me. And no, it was not the main character. It was actually Shiori. I actually thought her motive was kind of interesting because she wanted to save up enough money to basically become a shut-in and move away from society because she really didn't like it. But she was basically just a random side character who we never see again after she beats the other game. So with her being the best character in this anime, I think that makes the bar be set really, really low. I didn't really care for the main character much at all. I felt like her motive of wanting to just beat 99 games felt really random. I mean, there are some aspects to this character that I can get why if somebody liked her, but I just think she's really lame overall. Not only do the characters get significantly worse in the second half of the anime, but they start taking up too much screen time. In fact, the anime is basically just completely about them. In the last game in the anime, we easily get to see what's the most interesting concept for a game so far, which is Candlewoods, with one team being the bunnies and the other team hunting them. But instead of actually focusing on the game, we get 2 episodes about this stupid character, and we spend more time on our backstory than actually seeing what's going on in the game. And this is easily one of the most annoying characters in anime that I've seen in a while now. The character is written so terribly, and they try to make you feel bad for her, but she's just such a trash character that you really can't. She's literally killing everyone in the game, even her own teammates, for the dumbest reason. Although I felt like this character could have actually been really interesting if she was done right, but she was just done so wrong. And this is mostly due to the fact that her mentor was just such a trash person slash character. Like seriously, all they had to do in this arc was follow the theme of hunting and surviving, and it would have been a really compelling arc. Especially if they had Moegi's mentor have the opposite viewpoint of survival from Yuki's viewpoint of survival, where to her survival is about killing others to survive, while Yuki's mentor basically views it the other way around, where survival is about focusing on yourself and surviving yourself and not necessarily having to worry about others. This would have been a really interesting philosophical dichotomy between the two parties, but instead they just make her pure evil and just kill people for no reason, which makes watching this infinitely less interesting to me because the themes they had set up about the difference between fighting for survival by killing others and fighting for survival by focusing on survival were just not developed upon at all. So instead of that, we spend all of our time watching fake sad backstories of annoying trash can tier characters, and the actual game itself was just completely derailed from what made it interesting conceptually to begin with. So I was very disappointed whenever they had the presence of those themes and had the potential to build on them so much, then just completely derailed it into something much less interesting, which was whatever the fuck they were even trying to go for with the crazy and uninteresting villains. And it turns out one of the crazy villains had metallic skin for some reason, somehow, which makes her really overpowered. I still don't even know how she pulled this off, but I guess in this universe with blood being replaced by pillow fluff, it kind of makes sense. Eventually, the anime gets to the point where all of the characters start dying off screen entirely, and when I say that, I mean literally almost every time, basically. We basically never even get to see what happens to most of these characters because they're just constantly skipping fight scenes or stuff is just happening randomly and you can't even tell what's going on half the time. So if there was a character you wanted to follow outside of the main character or any of the villains, good luck because they're probably either dying off screen or you're never seeing them again. Even a character as important as Yuki's mentor dies off screen and then somehow turns out she's not actually dead. I still don't understand how this even works, but the anime just doesn't make any sense at this point, so whatever. So yeah, overall with the characters in this anime, the anime tries so desperately to make you feel bad for them and relate to them, but they're just such trash characters that you really can't. Their motivations are so stupid and their backstories have to be some of the worst I've seen in anime in a while now. As for the games in this anime, they're honestly so uninteresting to the point where it breaks the immersion. You aren't solving anything with the characters, you're just watching them do random escape room stuff and are told that these characters are smart for figuring stuff out. Most of the time random stuff is happening, like random keys spawning, and sometimes a whole section will happen off screen. Because of this, the games feel so unalive, and having games feel alive is completely essential in this kind of anime. Kaiji's Rock Paper Scissors arc is a perfect example of a PvP game that actually has real strategy to it, where the whole area feels dynamic and the circumstances are constantly changing around them. The characters' decisions have real impact on the entire game for everyone, but in this anime there isn't anything remotely close to this. At least certainly not past episode 5. So overall, there's pretty much no real depth or strategy to any of the games, and they pretty much skip over like 90% of what's even going on in them. And because of this, it just makes it completely unwatchable, and the immersion is just not there. And it's also sad that the coolest concept for a game by far is at the last part, and they just completely ruin it by focusing on all of the wrong things. And again, whenever one of the main points of this anime is supposed to be the games they're in, whenever they start skipping 90% of what's actually happening in them, I start questioning why I'm even watching this anime to begin with. Even the game with 50 players could have been really interesting because in concept it's basically a war between different groups to survive, but then they quickly stray off that concept and make it about this stupid rivalry between the main character and this other girl from one of the previous games. Not only was this rivalry really stupid, but whenever it was supposed to be the focus, they still couldn't even make it the focus. Because in the middle of the final battle between Yuki and this girl, they completely cut it off and the rest of it happens off screen. For the rest of the 10 minutes of the episode, we just get random stuff, and then finally at the very end of the episode, you get to see the conclusion of the fight. And to be honest, it just seems like they were trying too hard to be avant-garde with this, but it just does not work out because it completely breaks the flow. And I think that's a good way to put how I would describe this whole anime, is they always try to be so artsy and avant-garde, but it just comes across as annoying sometimes. Now don't get me wrong, I did enjoy certain aspects of this in the anime, but I feel like a lot of it's just so overused and overdone to where it just gets unwatchable sometimes. And for starters, it's in movie aspect ratio, which I actually didn't mind this. I kind of liked it to some degree. But it's really just a lot of the directing style choices they use, and I like some of them a little bit, but they just overuse them so much and it just gets annoying. They overuse this pastel art style so much where you can't even see the character's face, and I didn't mind this sometimes, but whenever they use it during fight scenes, it just gets so annoying. Like, I think they should have maybe used this like once or twice per episode max, but whenever they start using it for like 30% of the episode, it just gets overbearing. Another example of them trying too hard to be artsy is whenever they would shrink the screen down to where you could only see 5% of what's going on. This gets really annoying whenever it happens during important moments when you can't even see what's going on. And they often let scenes play out for so long. Sometimes I even think I accidentally paused the anime on accident. There are certain parts in episodes where it'll just be a still image for like 30 seconds where nothing moves. And they really don't add enough to the backgrounds to make these scenes even feel alive. It just feels like I'm paused. To me, this is just an easy way to get away with being lazy. Unfortunately, the last episode was probably the worst offender of them trying to be too avant-garde. Like, seriously, in this episode, the production style was too over the top where you couldn't even tell what was going on. You're in the middle of a fight scene and all of a sudden you just start seeing these weird movie credits, and then you get this weird vision from Yuki where she's a ghost, and honestly, I don't even know how to interpret this. Like, I don't really know what is going on here. Like, at first, I thought it was just this vision she was having to help her motivate herself to stay alive, but she's seeing characters that she hasn't even met yet since this is taking place in the past, so I don't even know really what's happening. It really just does not make any sense. The last thing I want to complain about is the fight scenes, and honestly, they're not that bad usually. I feel like characters just pull random weapons out of nowhere. It's usually knives. You also have characters constantly missing at point blank range and dodging bullets like they're in the Matrix. But I've definitely seen worse action in anime, and that is if you're overlooking the fact that most of these fight scenes get skipped halfway through and you don't even get to see the resolution. So yeah, overall, while I felt like there were some aspects of this anime that really could have been interesting, and there was some potential here for sure, everything interesting it sets up always gets derailed into something significantly worse, and overall it's just bad. There are plenty more things I can nitpick, like some of the smaller things that happened, but honestly, I'm just so tired of talking about this anime. I want to be done with it, and I never want to see this anime again. So yeah, overall I'm giving this one a light 3 out of 10. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this anime, and if you guys watched this, let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. I'm definitely really curious if you liked it or if you didn't like it, if you agreed or you disagreed. I haven't uploaded in a long time, but I want to start getting back in the flow of things, and I have multiple projects that I've been working on lately, so I really want to get back into uploading again. So if you want to see more anime reviews and see what I think is worth watching or not watching, then definitely subscribe, because there is a whole bunch of anime that I plan on reviewing this season. But yeah, overall that's pretty much it for the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.